The expressed views of the guests on this podcast are theirs alone and not necessarily endorsed by the host, TWBC, or any associated sponsor. Conversations that are robust yet balanced, on point and to the point. You are listening to the talk of tournament water skiing. This is the TWBC Podcast. And now, here's your host, Tony Lightfoot.
Well, greetings one and all. My name is Tony Lightfoot, the aforementioned Tony Lightfoot. This is the latest edition of the TWBC Podcast, episode 152, for those of you keeping count. Of course I am. And we've got a really special interview today because within the last week or so, it was announced that the new marketing manager that has been hired on at HO Syndicate is Marcus Brown, and I just so happen to have Marcus Brown right here and now. So, Marcus, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Tony. Hey, thank you, man, for taking time to do this call. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked as well, and you know, I mean, we've known each other for quite a while over the years, you know, and there are a number of questions that have come with a hiring of such magnitude. But let's go first things first. I typically ask my interview subjects how they got started in the sport, you know, and what has led them to where they are today. So let's get fired up with that. So what was your start, man?
Yeah, hey, thanks for asking. Honestly, I believe I owe a lot of what I've done in skiing to my big brother. He was kind of the tip of the spear. He broke kind of every barrier before I had to. And you know, just thinking about this the other day, talking to a friend about all the steps I took were steps that my brother had taken before me. So we had summers off. My folks were teachers, and we spent a lot of time on the water, but we weren't tournament skiers at all. We were just recreational weekend warriors. And then my brother skied his first tournament. I think he was like 13, and that got us hooked. And from then on, I think my folks started trying to ski some events. I started trying to ski a couple years later. My first tournament was actually at Shortline Lake, where the California Pro-Am is. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of it was on after that, you know. That was the moment. So again, you know, I think just like the sport is so great at reminding us that we can't do anything on our own. We kind of we need a village, you know, we need a community, we need a tribe.
At the very least, you need a boat driver.
You need a boat driver at the very least, which we think is a curse, but I think it's a blessing because it makes us get along and play nice with at least one other person, right?
Exactly.
So, yep. So that was my start. That's how I got into it. I just followed my brother's footsteps the whole way, and I think, you know, that was instrumental in me doing anything that anybody thinks I've done. You know, it was kind of his fault and my folks.
All right, then. So, I mean, Marcus Brown is well known. I mean, the very name Marcus Brown, whenever it is bandied about, you know, I mean, you think of like an industry titan or an industry legend, a giant, that kind of thing, which is rather ironic considering you stand around about 5'8" or a little bit beyond there on the physical side of things, you know. But how has been like the first week or so? Working at HO Sports as the marketing manager, because this is probably the least surprising announcement anyone could have made when it comes to tying your name with HO, because I mean you've been working with those cats for years.
Yeah, but let's just back up, Tony. I mean, I don't know if people know this, but you yourself, you know, TWBC, obviously everybody knows what you guys have been doing the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
But if you go to TWBC's YouTube page, folks, and you click the videos tab and you go to oldest, you can go back 13 years and you can see the stuff that Tony was doing pretty much single-handedly on his own, you know, before anybody else came along. And I just want to say, dude, there's nobody else in the industry like you. You're trying to paint me as a legend, but I think you're the one that we need to just say a big thank you to, because honestly, the hours, the long days on the microphone in the heat, event in, event out. Obviously, Vince is doing an insane job, but you're also the face of it. And I think in some ways, you've been the glue for all these years. 13 years ago, that was your first post on the Water Ski Broadcasting Company's YouTube page. So congrats on that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a legend? Let me ask you that. Do you feel like a legend?
Oh,
yes or no?
No,
yes or no?
no, I
Black and white.
don't. Honestly,
Exactly.
don't.
I don't feel like a legend either. That's the whole point. So we're just people, that's the thing. At the end of the day, we're just people following a passion, pulling on a thread that's interesting to us and scratching an itch and seeing where it goes. And I think to answer your question, nothing's really changed except I have a few more calls and a few more emails to make on the daily, but I'm kind of, it's my job to do that. Whereas before it was kind of a little bit more, I was just doing it to as a means to an end. Now it's like I'm looked at as somebody to kind of start pulling things together, and I'm just getting my feet on the ground, Tony. I don't really know what I'm doing yet, but hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks it'll start becoming more apparent. So.
Well, I mean, you've had a hand in a lot of and a lot of things that HO has done, over the last few years. I mean, you have like team camps for Team Syndicate over at the Ridge. I mean, I think you pull that lot together. You grab in, such a wide variety of talent. Like Benny Stadelbar and Will Asher and Rob Hazelwood. I mean, like Rob Hazelwood's a freak, isn't he? I mean, when you two compare notes with what you do on social media and just media in general with the video and the drone shots and everything else, I mean the stuff that you two must concoct between the pair of you must be absolutely scary.
Well, with Rob, it's just a matter of trying to get him to calm down, because if anybody knows him personally, that guy is an Energizer bunny. Whether it's before or after Twisty Treat. I mean, he's a sugar fiend and he's diabetic, so I don't know what he's doing there. He's always injecting, but the guy is just nonstop. And I've tried to teach him what I know about filmmaking, and he's taken that and run with it. And I think for me, it's just a joy to get to work with guys like Rob and Will and the whole team. Jamie, Allie. It's gonna be fun to get to know Sasha more. I've talked to him a few times, obviously, but he's pretty shy. And maybe I need to start learning French. I don't know, but
he's a bit of an enigma, I mean, when you compare the guys on the Syndicate team, and then you throw Sasha into the mix, he isn't quite as outgoing as some of the others, and kind of keeps a little bit himself to himself. You mean that's my perspective on it. Maybe you've got a deal. Maybe you've got some kind of different perspective on Sasha, but yeah.
No, I think you're exactly right. I think that's what it takes to make a well-rounded team. I think if everybody's kind of on the same path, then you don't have any depth. You don't have strength. I think it takes variety. It takes diversity to create strength, and I think we have that. Between those guys, and then on down the line, Parrish and Benny, and the rest of the team. So. Yeah, I think it's a great team. I'm excited to work with them. Obviously, I've been involved with the brand for a while. With Flowpoint TV starting 10 years ago, even before that, when Bob LaPointe came down to my lake and got me switched over back in the A1 days, Syndicate A1, and ever since then, it's just kind of been a great, wild, exciting ride with helping develop the free ride ski back in the day, and then the Freeride Evo and some other skis, and being involved in ski design as an engineer. That's pretty exciting to me. And I'm afraid of losing that a little bit, but I hope not. I hope I still have time to put that hat on. And my goal is to get on the water a little bit more this year as well than I have been. I skied very little last year. I think I showed up at Worlds and we had an off day, and I went over to Will Asher's and I rode one of the new Works 01s that hasn't been released yet. And that's kind of what surprised me. I ran through 38 off. Tony hadn't even cut to 38 in maybe 7-8 years or longer, and it was just the stars aligned, and it was like, damn, this is fun. I need to start doing this again. So
yeah. I mean,
that lit a fire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like getting into it again. But I mean, what caused you to take a back seat to all of that deal anyway? Because I mean, in the late 1990s, early 2000 meters. I mean, you were rocking the roost, with you and the likes of, like Will Asher was starting to come through there. Terry Winter, a good friend of yours, no doubt. And
Yep.
I mean, you had like Chris
Rossi,
Sullivan, Rossi
O'Shane.
Sullivan, and all of that lot. And then suddenly, poof! I mean, it just like disappeared from the scene. I mean, kind of what happened there?
Well, yeah, I think just to make a long story short, I think what happened is if you go back and you watch any of these clips that I post or people post to me from those early days, you notice how kind of dynamic and maybe over how much I overskied the passes. And
Mm-hmm.
I think if I could go back and tell myself one thing, I would just say, bro, settle down, like stand up a little bit more and chill out. Don't pull so hard. But that was the problem. And it just caught up to me. I came home from the Russia Worlds in 2011 and I just missed the podium by one spot. And I went to a tournament at Will Bush's Lake, Shoreline Lake, and just my back blew out. It was time. I'd been over skiing for years and not taking care of it. And I think, fast forward, I obviously haven't been able to get back to that level since then. It was literally kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But that's also the impetus, and that's also the kind of the dust of the dust particle that the Flowpoint method kind of program built on. It was like, look, I don't want other people to end up like me. I see a lot of people skiing out of position, pulling in situations and pulling in positions on the ski that they're going to get hurt at some point if they already haven't gotten hurt. And Jenny and I have our own set of experiences, and so that's where we came up with FPM. Was just like, we don't want other people to hurt like I do, and we don't want other people to make technical errors like a lot of people are making. So maybe we can share what we know, and maybe we can affect some positive change in the ski world and also in the greater world. Like, we use water skiing as a carrot to say, hey, check out FPM. We have a lot of tools. We don't tell you what to do, but we give you tools to help you maybe become a better skier, but also become more fit and actually feel better through your daily life. So it's like using skiing as the carrot to get you to actually take better care of yourself and feel better, the other 23 hours of the day that you're not water skiing.
Yeah, that quote unquote holistic approach to the sport and just life that surrounds it in general. I would
Exactly.
surmise from that.
Exactly. So yeah, that's why I disappeared. Honestly, it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't what I wanted to do. It just was like, man, I can't ski. My back's hurt. And anybody who's had back and nerve pain knows what that's like. So I'm just I've been slowly dipping in and out and kind of trying to ski as I can, but maybe this year I'll try to ski a little bit more. I don't know what I can do until I try. So yeah.
Absolutely. You mentioned the Flowpoint method, and you dabbled. You alluded to Flowpoint TV, with two entities, similar names, but separate identities, So what has it been like just trying to develop that brand, because it is a brand now. I mean, when people talk about off-season training a little bit, they look to your system. There are a number of pro skiers that are that use the system in the off season. Just from the top of my head, Jamie Ball, Freddie Winter, at least the ones that I can easily recall because of the ad spots that go out on the TWBC webcast, that kind of thing. But you've got about half a dozen others that use the system. Tell us the difference, in your mind, the difference between that and what you do with the media aspect with Flowpoint TV, and how that's going to develop and or stay intact, over the time that you are going to assume the role as HO Sports marketing manager.
Yeah, no, so there's a couple things going, but yeah, the Flowpoint TV project that I started and that HO, single-handedly supported me, and about a decade ago, that was kind of the storytelling machine. Like, let's bring water skiing and towed water sports back to kind of the roots of adventuring, having fun on the water, and doing things differently. Yeah, we had a Will Asher, actually that Will Asher piece was probably the most watched piece that we had. But we had a couple athlete profiles on that series, but we also did a lot of adventuring, Patagonia, Hawaii, went to the Worlds in Mexico, told that story. So we're trying to do different things. And I think, just to kind of put a cap on that, the reason that it's called Flowpoint is because, people think of flow state, people think of having a peak experience on the water. And that was just my term for it, flow point. It was like that moment, that pass where you completely disappear, you have an out of body experience, and it's just something that you can't explain. And we all know what that's like as water skiers, and that's what the flow point was to me. But since then, it's grown. It's like there's a lot of meaning behind it, and so we just decided, hey, if we're going to build an online water ski training program, let's just use that same brand and call it the method, because really it's tips, it's tools, it's methodology for making yourself better on and off the water. And so that's how we got to FPM, was just kind of, let's leverage this brand and get people access to everything they need to become better skiers in one place. As far as like how I'm going to manage all that, to your question, like I don't want Flowpoint TV or FPM, Flowpoint Method. I don't want that to go away. We've got a lot of support. We've got a lot of happy members with FPM right now, and we've got, like you said, 7 or 8 ambassadors, FPM pros, who are killing it. Like Chelsea Mills, just the other day, we had a call with her, and she's just like, man, I'm so impressed with this programming this off season in the winter. She's like, I skied the other day, my body feels amazing. So when we hear things like that from our pros, who are already kind of at the tip of the spear and at their best, and the fact that we can help them become even a little better through FPM, that gives us energy, that gives us passion to keep driving. So this HO marketing and team manager position, it's not going to take away from that. If it does take away from that, then I've got some hard decisions to make, because, to be honest, I wasn't out there looking or asking for this job. It just kind of fell in my lap. I was asked to step up, and so
step up. You did.
I'm honored. I'm honored, and I'm not going to let an opportunity like that pass me up. But yeah, to be open, I'm not going to let it affect what we're doing with the Flowpoint brand or with FPM. So.
Yeah, because it doesn't hurt that you have the 2 current world slalom champions in your stable in that regard, does it?
And it shouldn't affect. It should, if anything, we should be able to do some fun things with the Flowpoint brands and with HO and Syndicate moving forward. So that's the goal.
All right, then. So you're now in your office, so to speak. I saw the social media posts last week on Facebook and Instagram, and I don't know whether HO does anything with Threads, which is Facebook's version of X or what have you. There's so many to choose from. There's
so much going on now.
It's just absolutely mind-blowing.
Mind-boggling.
But that's the thing now. Everything is centered around what's going on those platforms. If you'd have thought that this kind of thing would be happening like 5 years ago, it was probably been like, I don't know. I'm trying to quantify this in language that a lot of people will understand. Social media has really seen an explosion within the sport of tournament water skiing, and it's remarkable.
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of democratizing the lives of people. Like, you're able, as anybody out there, you're able to have your video or your picture seen almost in a viral way if you're lucky, or maybe unlucky, I don't know, but you're able to reach a broad audience. Anybody is, just from their phone and from something that they post or something that happens to them that they share. I think that's both a blessing and a curse. But for our sport, I think it's been great. Again, going back to TWBC, what you guys have been doing you behind the mic, Vince behind the cameras and the switchboards, the team that he's assembled, you've assembled, has brought water skiing to the masses, the pro water skiing, which to me, that's kind of what I tried to do with Flowpoint TV back, 2013 starting, was to say, hey, I got hurt. I can't compete right now. Let me pull on this other thread I've been super interested in for decades as a kid. I always had cameras. I was always filming. My dad was filming back in the 80s. Let me see if I can do something with this. And so that's where Flowpoint TV really started, was try to show water skiing how it hasn't been shown for decades, because it was no longer on ESPN. It was no longer on Outdoor Life Network. It was no longer on broadcast TV. And so as one man, I knew I could try to tell stories. And that's what I was trying to do. But I think what you and Vince and the team have done has been phenomenal in a different way, because it's created this outlet for folks who are water ski and water sports enthusiasts to be able to tune in weekly. And it's been great for the athletes. I know athletes watch the replays. They watch from round to round. They will watch their sets to see what they've done, how they've improved, what mistakes they made, or how they can improve rather. And so there's so much positive motion right now in the sport, forward motion, momentum, if you will, that I'm excited. I think we're getting to a point where if it wasn't for the cost of boats, I think our sport would be exploding right now. And I know that's a polarizing comment, but maybe I shouldn't say that. But I think $100,000+ boats are just outlandish and outside the lines, and I don't think that's doing anybody any favors. But I think there's so much good stuff in the sport that screw that. We don't even need to talk about that. That stuff will fix itself if we just keep doing what we all know how to do and keep trying to share the stoke. And social media is a big part of that, to your point.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, Neely Ross has a huge following. Joel Poland is crushing it. Rob Hazelwood is doing a lot of his own content. And it's good content. There's just a lot of characters, a lot of players in this space.
Joel Poland is getting so many followers right now that the Instagram are paying him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you're going to start seeing is these athletes making a little bit of money on the side through their followings. So I don't know. I think it's a good time. It's a good place. I'm reminded. You were calling me a legend at the beginning, but every time I come home to this place in California, the Ridge, where we do our FPM camps and where I've been skiing for decades, I remember it. The trees are grown up. The trees I've planted are now 80 feet tall, but I remember it sometimes in my head as just a field of weeds and a lake and a dock. And whenever I can see it as that 30 years ago, I'm reminded of just the humble beginnings and just the fact that we all start somewhere. And I never want to forget that. I never wanted to go beyond just the love of being on the water with friends, with family, being behind the boat and going out and having a personal experience in the course, on the big lakes, free skiing, on a trick ski, on jumpers. It's about your personal experience. That's why we do this. But you can't have a peak personal experience. You can't experience that flow point without a tribe, without a community. And that's what's so great about the sport is it demands a boat driver. It demands ski buddies. It demands people to put on tournaments and events. It demands people to run, national governing bodies. It's just, there's a community, and we can't forget that part of it. I think sometimes we do.
All right. You mentioned boats and you mentioned some other stuff as well, and I'll circle back to that, because there's been some little bit of industry upheavals within the last few weeks, one with a major boat company and the other with the new hiring of an executive director for the sports governing body, but we'll circle to that. But what about your role at HO Sports, because in the eyes of a lot of people, your involvement in HO Sports, has been one of the longest out there. Say for Will Asher. He's been involved in HO Sports since, what was it, like 2005 or something like that? After he medaled at the World Championships, which were in Claremont at that time.
That was China, actually. 03 was Claremont.
Yeah, 03
was China.
Was Claremont. I beg your pardon. 05 was China. So I mean, he's been with that brand for so long. It's not even funny. But I mean, kind of take us into what a meeting looks like. You know, at HO Sports. You know, if you've only been there in your capacity as marketing manager but let's just say you just walk into the room. Dave Wingutter's at the head of the table. You've got the graphics guy, you've got the engineering guy, the design, and then you've got the marketing dude. That's you. You know, just kind of set the scene for us a little bit and kind of tell us what's new on the horizon and what we can expect from the collective geniuses or genii that are in that room in Washington State.
Is genii, is that plural for geniuses?
It's maybe a word I just invented, or geniuses. I mean, octopi or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, just for starters, I think to backtrack, we're in a different age now since COVID. So I'm not going to be in any one spot. I'm able to work remotely, which works nicely for kind of what I do, outside of kind of my role with HO.
I'm trying to forget COVID and all the vestiges that go along with COVID. Seeing that screen, those 4 panes up there. It was horrible for me to be involved in all
I know,
that,
Tony. I didn't mean to pick that scab. I'm sorry. Let's put that to bed. Let's not talk about COVID. So most importantly for me is, I think, to remind people that HO isn't some corporate machine. HO skis, it's been around since 1982, and when it's at its best, whether it was with Herb O'Brien at the helm or it's with Dave Wingerter at the helm from whenever that was, when I got started, at least in 2008 on, it's for the people, by the people. These are users. These are skiers that are running the company, and that hasn't changed. So I think keeping that in mind, that's what I want to highlight is the fact that we've got, somebody who skied professionally, Dave Wingerter, still in the development of these top level skis all the way down to the recreational skis, because he grew up just like I did on public water. And so to have a guy like Dave in product development, to be able to work with side by side, run ideas by, spitball, kick rock or kicks, whatever you do, kick the dirt. I don't know what you do now, but just to spitball, it's great. It's great to have somebody like that who's still doing it. He's still skiing. He's still fired up about it. The graphics guys, great guys. I've obviously spent lots of time with them, all the way down to the CAD developers, the machinists, the people who are making things happen. Big Dave Robinson. There's a lot of people in that chain, from concept to reality to then production, that make this thing happen. And I think my goal is to continue to bring that to light for people, that in as many ways as I can, that not only do we have a great team, a pro team, but that's just one part of the equation. We also have a great team, behind the brand that makes things happen. And as you know, a brand is nothing more than the people who make it so. And so when you look at a brand, you look at any brand, Nike, you look at, Ford, you look at, Mercedes-Benz, those brands they don't stand alone. They're built upon people who are passionate, who are leaders, who pull other people along, and who create good products. And so that's I think what we need to highlight and continue to lean into with HO. But yeah, I'm excited to look. We've got a great team. Greg Nelson, he was a pro wakeboarder back in the day. He's been with Hyperlight for years. I'm working closely with him on the marketing side to help build this brand into the future. And so between him and Dave Wingerter and Big Dave Robinson, I think we've got a killer team to see what we can do moving forward. And people think I've been involved. I have not been involved really in this side of things, except for a little bit of creative on the marketing side. I've been more involved in the product development side, as I can, getting my hands dirty, filing skis, doing some Bondo work, helping think outside the box. But aside from that, the only other thing I was doing was creating content. And so now I get to kind of be a little bit more global in my approach and see if I can steer the ship a little bit more from this new position. However, John Mommer, getting to work with him from the beginning with Flowpoint TV and some of these other things, Flowpoint TV wouldn't have been a thing without Dave Wingerter and John Mommer. And so I'm going to try to live up to what John was able to do at HO and see if I can even do that. That's kind of my mark in the next little bit, to see if I can continue building the brand like those guys did. So
what has surprised you so far of you being involved in your new role at HO? Because I mean,
the amount of emails that I've had to field. I mean, I know there's emails, I know that, but I'm like, okay, holy crap, I got to figure out how to manage my time a little better, because if I'm not careful, the emails pile up, and it's like I feel like I spend half my day emailing, and I'm gonna have to figure that workflow out. But I'll learn it. I'll figure it out.
All right then. Okay, so kind of as a little bit of a dip in the toe in the fourth estate, a little bit where we try and highlight a few of the newsier type items that have come and gone and are still festering. Okay, let me ask you this: a little while ago, it seems like an eternity ago now, Malibu Boats basically let go their main promo guy, Dennis Kelly. Had been involved in the industry for over 35 years, close to 35 years, I would say. When you heard about that news that one of the most recognizable names within tournament towboats no longer has a job with Malibu, and that being the consequence of posting one of their worst periods in the stock market. I mean, how did you receive that? I mean, what was your reaction?
Well, definitely. I don't, just to be open and honest, I don't really know much about what's going on there. I probably heard just through the grapevine, maybe saw some stuff on a forum. But look, you've got three major boat companies: Malibu, Mastercraft, Nautique. And does it feel like kind of a canary in the coal mine type of a moment? I think so, in a way. I mean, a staple, an individual who's done huge things for Malibu over the decades and then let go. I think it is a canary in the coal mine moment, but it's not surprising in a way. I mean, think about it. Like, what's happening in water sports at that level, the level of the boat manufacturers is kind of synonymous with what's happening in the world at large. You've got maybe a little too much emphasis on profits and a little not enough emphasis on taking care of the customer's needs, which includes making things affordable and not kind of overinflating the market just because you can, and that's what scares me.
Yeah, because that alluded to your earlier point. When boats started going over $100,000 in price, then someone's got to look and say, "Hey, I mean, what's going on here?" I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at a dollar. The dollar, how the dollar's changed. Like in 1986, when we bought, I don't know, we had a boat for $17,000. In 1986, it was a Ski Supreme, and nowadays I think that would be somewhere around $50,000 in today's money. Maybe I'm off on inflation. I don't know, but either way,
you couldn't even buy the engine for that much now.
You could, but you'd have an engine, and you'd have to like strap it to a pallet and try to hang the prop off the back and see if you could get that thing up on a plane. Otherwise, you'd lose the engine. But that's ridiculous. Boats are twice that now. So I'm not pointing the finger at the boat companies. I'm just trying to figure, because I don't know anything. I'm dumb when it comes to that. I'm just trying to figure out what is going on and why people are getting squeezed out. And okay, you do need a boat to ski and tube and wakeboard and wake surf, but you don't have to buy new. That's what people say, and I get that. But when new boats cost as much as they do, the used boat market is inflated as well. And so it just kind of goes on down the line to where people, it's hard, dude. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a lake and you don't have a setup where the boat's kind of on a lift, like most of us are used to, who are probably listening to this podcast, if you're still listening, because I've been talking too much. But if you're just an average Joe who wants to like have a boat to be able to go weekend warrior, it's a huge process. You got to have some place to store the boat. You got to pay for storage. You got to be able to trailer the boat to a lake that's hopefully not more than 2 hours away, which right there, driving there and back, that's half your day. Then you only have another half a day to spend on the lake. And then you don't want to get it scratched because you just paid $250,000 for this thing. So you're anal about keeping people, take your shoes off, don't step on the seats. It's just like we've made it so stressful because this thing is now an investment instead of a tool. And so we got to get back to where people can just enjoy the lake and look at those boats as more tools to enjoy the process of being on the lake and centerpieces for the gathering of family and friends, rather than an investment that you're going to have to recoup later. And therefore you're trying to cover your tracks and tell people to take their shoes off and not, stand on the seats and, not put the board on the gunnel. Like it's just we're just in a weird spot right now. And I think Dennis Kelly, being let go, I think that's probably a canary in the coal mine, and we'll see what happens. I don't know much about it, but I do know there's not many users. There are not many users left at these boat companies. And there, people who are at these boat companies who are maybe listening are probably like, well, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm a skier. I'm a wakeboarder, but there's not many left.
Yeah.
To be honest. And I think, that's a big part of the problem, because I've used this example before, but I went to Santa Cruz Bikes factory down in Santa Cruz, or to their headquarters rather. One time I just stopped in, it's open to the public, and it was like noon, and I walked in and there was a secretary and nobody else was in their offices. And I said, where is everybody? It's like a Tuesday. And she said, oh, they're all out riding.
Oh,
it's Santa Cruz Bikes, and everybody at lunch is out riding bikes, And so that to me was like, wow, that's awesome. They are users. And that's why that brand, probably one of the reasons why it's a very strong brand in the mountain biking scene.
Yeah,
so,
because the folks are out there with the folks,
They're rubbing shoulders with everybody else, with the customer, and because they have to answer to the customer, because they go to events and they can't just be removed from the situation. They have to answer to the customer and the consumer. And so I think that changes the way you operate when you do that. And I think these brands have lost a little bit of that. And so, yeah, I know of one other skier at Malibu who's still involved, who's not even involved in the water ski boat side of Malibu anymore. That's it. That's all I know of a Malibu who's used to be, or still may be, a passionate, towboat enthusiast. So I think that's the problem, Tony.
Yeah.
I think we need users back at these brands.
Indeed. Now, another piece of news that came up within the last few weeks, you probably know this guy. Your paths have probably crossed. Kevin Michael. He's recently been hired as the executive director of USA Water Ski and Wake Sports. When no doubt you found out about that, and what was your reaction to that one? Because he's been involved in the sport for years. WSAI, and doing stuff on the advocacy level. How do you reckon that hire is going to go?
I don't know. I think there's been a lot of change over the years at USA Water Ski, and that turnover is unfortunate. But I have high hopes. I think I haven't spent much time talking to Kevin, but he's already reached out to me. So we've had some interaction. I think that's cool to see that he's just like going the extra mile. I saw on Ball of Spray. I saw the news clip where he was already on the news, live news, talking about water ski nationals, which isn't for another 5 months.
Yeah.
Something like that. He's already on the news promoting that, which that's how water skiing maintained a big profile back in the 80s and 90s. Was we had promotional things happening. We had people out talking about this stuff before it happened. So I think that stuff's great. I think he's already doing things that we haven't seen in a while. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting to work with him. So it's exciting. Anytime there's a change in an entity like a national governing body like USA Water Ski, there's excitement. And so I think, I, as well as a lot of other people, are excited to see where this goes. It's not like USA Water Ski has been leading the charge in a lot of ways. I mean, they've been doing great things, but it's very hard in some ways to be a national governing body and to kind of also promote the heck out of the sport. So I know they're in a tough spot anyway. So I'm excited to see what he can do, and I'm excited to see what HO and Syndicate can do with him moving forward.
As you were going through that answer, it kind of reminded me a little bit about presidential power. Way back in the turn of the 19th through the 20th century. Back in those days, the president didn't wield an awful lot of power, and then Teddy Roosevelt came in and then changed the whole thing, and then U.S. politics suddenly becomes everything around one man and one vision, going forwards a little bit. So. I mean, it's not an uncommon situation where someone comes in, grabs the sport by the scruff of the neck and says, "Hey, we need to reinvigorate ourselves," and it starts with this guy, and I mean, it sounds like he's off to a good start there, at least from your point of view and perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like you're right. Sometimes it can take one or two key people to kind of get the dominoes falling in the right direction. And yeah, you're right. Let's see. Hopefully, Kevin's got the perspective and the drive and the leadership. And I think we gotta give him a chance. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Right, yeah. Almost right at the beginning of this interview, right here, you mentioned that you're developing some new skis, some new designs. At least Joe is, and I'm sure you've got some involvement in there as well. Would you care to divulge some of one or two of the secrets that we should be on the lookout for, within the next few months, because that works, the Works 01 and Works 02 has definitely changed the game so far as high level elite slalom skiing is concerned, and then HO also produced the Sabre, which is probably the first, or probably one of the first, sustainable skis out there. So I mean, there's those going forward, but what can we look forward to from HO Sports within the next few months?
Yeah, Tony, thanks for teeing that up. Well, I will say the Sabre that you just mentioned, I think, is probably the most exciting product, and also the kind of most under promoted product to date. I think we haven't done a very good job of telling people what that is. So some people may be familiar with ISPO. ISPO in Munich is like the world's largest trade fair for sporting goods. So any outdoor good like water sports, snow sports, surfing, camping, anything like that, they are there at that event at Expo in Munich, and the Saber won an award for innovation at
Wow.
that event this year, and people don't even know that. But to be upfront, we're using a foam core that's never been used in water sports. It's been used in snow skiing. It's derived instead of from petroleum based oil. So foam is produced from oil. Oil usually comes from petroleum based products. We are using now for this Saber, we are using a foam core that's grown from algae. So algae's grown, you extract the oil from that and basically use that oil to create this foam that we are now using in the Saber. And I think people probably either don't care because they say, okay, great, whatever. I'm not worried about that. Their worldview doesn't demand that they care about that necessarily. But that's fine. But what's also cool about it is we haven't lost any performance in going from a petroleum based foam core to an algae foam core. We haven't lost any performance. And I don't know if you saw that video that HO put out welcoming me to the team, but I was skiing
Yeah.
on the Saber, and it's a Works O2 proven shape, the shape that Jamie Bull won the Pro Tour and won the World Championships on, the shape that Rob Hazelwood and Benny Stadelbauer ride, the shape that many people ride, but with a construction, algae foam core and some fiberglass, and it's a freaking killer ski. So it comes in at a price point that's almost hard to believe how cheap it is. So I'm stoked about the Saber. I think it's groundbreaking. I think maybe looking back, later this year or in the next year, we're going to say, damn, that was insane what what we were able to do. I don't really know how Dave was able to pull that off, to be honest, that a ski like that with that kind of innovation at a price point that's, half of a normal Works O2, less than half. It's $1,000 basically.
Oh, wow.
So that thing's pretty awesome. And then of course we're always iterating. We're always doing R&D. I mean, you ever heard the name Will Asher? He's always
I've heard of his name being bandied around for so long. I mean, tell me more
yeah.
about him.
So I mean, I don't need to go into detail, but Will's always tinkering. He's always playing. We never know what he's writing, and I think that's one of the strengths, the backbone of our syndicate team, if you will, is that Will is always iterating. And between him and Dave and Bob Lapointe, Benny Stadelbauer, Travers, the girls are, Jamie and Allie are integral in the testing.
Mateo as well.
Mateo, yeah, for sure. So we're always working on stuff, Tony. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I think expect to see some new syndicate stuff, some new shapes, sooner rather than later is kind of all I can say. But I will tell you that we're not going to stop trying to innovate and improve off of this platform, this Syndicate Works platform, because I think it's already kind of been a success to date. Launching the Works 01 and the Works 02 a couple of years ago, and now we're like, okay, here we go. Let's see what we can do with this platform and see how we can improve it moving forward. So.
All right, sounds like a lot of things to expect going forward. Now let's focus a little bit here before we start to wrap up here on the kind of soft goods, relatively soft goods anyway, away from the skis. Because there are three major moat manufacturers right now. There's Masterline, which has been like the day on, for so many years. Then you've got the new kid in town, S-Lines. But coming in around about that same area is Syndicate Lines, which was once Accurate, but has been rebranded to Syndicate. And each of those lines, they have, with the exception of Syndicate, have like an optimized type line, a traditional type line. It's mind-boggling and confusing. Which line to pick, how your skiing, works into those lines, and then Syndicate has their line, their singular product, which is relatively stiff compared to a master line, and it kind of got me thinking, when the officials decide we're going to use this line and we're going to use this line, under what metric, do they say that, that this line is good for this type of skier and have this line on standby, and what have you, So I mean, you're probably testing out a whole bunch of lines and figuring out which strands, which braids, and what have you is best for your type of skiing. But I mean, there's no real measuring method, at least as far as I can see, to determine what line does this and what line does that.
Well, that's a good question. I think to just get to the answer very quickly, I don't think that there's a one size fits all answer, right? And this goes right down the line. This goes down to ski design, ski shape, fin settings, bindings, gloves, and obviously ropes and handles. Like, everybody's different. Everybody's got different anatomy. Everybody's got different preferences. Everybody skis a little differently, technically speaking. So to answer your question, I think, Masterline and S lines, they've historically focused on ropes and lines. Obviously Masterline does other stuff as well, but we try to offer a premium product in a rope that's at a decent price, hopefully, that people feel like they can afford. But at the same time, we're not in the business of trying to offer every flavor under the sun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, we're simply going to say, hey, look, these are great lines. They are they should be almost spot on measurement wise, so you shouldn't have to worry about that every time. And take it or leave it. That's kind of where we're at right now with that lineup. But I think, to your point, different people prefer different things. Some like stretchier ropes. I know one skier in particular prefers that almost exclusively to more stiff line, like our knotless mainline, or syndicate knotless mainline. But look, Tony, I think water skiing has strayed a little bit away from the spirit of what it's meant to be. Not to go global, not to backtrack, but when back in the day, you'd show up at a pro event and it's like, okay, this is what you get. You get this boat, you get this driver, these are the ropes. You lace your handle up and away you go. You just kind of dealt with the conditions that you had. And that was because we knew everybody that day had the same ropes, had the same boat driver, had the same everything. It was pure competition. We weren't looking for scores. We were looking for placement. We were looking for, can I go out and do close to what I know I can do on the day and put a mark out there for other people to chase?
Bazinga.
That's literally what we were doing. And I feel like we've gotten away from that a little bit, too much, to a fault, to where people have become a little bit more entitled to say, oh, you know what, that rope wasn't right. The boat felt soft. The buoys were a little, whatever. I think that's dragging us away from the spirit of the sport in a way. And ropes are no different. And I may be a little bit blunt here and a little harsh, but the pros are the tip of the spear. People watch them on TWBC any given weekend, and that stuff kind of trickles down from the high end. So I do place a little bit of emphasis or a little bit of responsibility on the professional skiers to be professionals and deal with whatever it may be on the given day. And you see events now, you have a choice sometimes, a rope choice. And that's great. I think maybe every event should be like that. Just let the skiers choose so that you eliminate that variable from the equation, and let them go out and just perform. But yeah, I mean, come on, it's a rope. Is it the right length? Great. Okay, we'll go out and ski and see what you can do.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
I think we're definitely gone a little deep into the weeds, and like
think about. My question to you is, when are you going to start skiing, Tony? That's what I want to know. You're going to get back on the ski.
I knew you were going to ask this question, and yes.
Dude, you were running 35. You were running deep 35 back in the day, 20 years ago. What happened? Let's go. Let's do this.
Yes, yeah. I think my path definitely deviated from that one. But let me tell you this. I've been out on the hovercraft, dude.
Oh yeah. How great is that thing?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean it's it's certainly a great ski to get up on, to do some squares and that kind of stuff. Where it comes down a little bit is the ability to control how quick that thing turns and being able to.
Oh, come on. Don't you
Oh,
love how sharp that thing turns? It turns 90 degrees.
yeah, that's the thing. It comes round 90 degrees, but I'm nowhere near ready for that. I mean,
I know.
if I was Will Asher, then yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
On his two four-side turn, and if I could control something like that, then yeah. But I need some, yeah. I'm still on the hovercraft and still trying to get to terms with it, and just trying to ease in, and start making some passes again, But that's a great ski.
Let me tell you where the hovercraft came from real quick. It was a couple years ago before we brought it out. I'd been talking to Dave Wingerter and to Bob Lapointe quite a while. We had all been talking about the need for a participation ski. In other words, a ski for the beginner, instead of doing the transitions like, hey, the typical pathway to learning how to slalom is you start on two, right? If you don't have a boom, you start on two skis, you drop a ski, and then you learn how to get up on one. We're like, hey, why don't we build a ski that people can just get up on right away? That's maybe easier than a wakeboard to get up on. Mm-hmm. So we took the Freeride Evo. Bob Lapointe cut the Freeride Evo down the middle, widened it a little over 3 inches, replaced the middle with a piece of wood, and doweled and glued and resined it all together, brought it down to the lake. It looked phenomenal. His craftsmanship, his handwork is just unreal, by the way. And I think we still have that ski somewhere, but I got on it. It was middle of winter. I'm like, damn, this thing is unbelievable. I'm going 15, 16 miles an hour. It was easy to get up. I was up right away, and it turned, like you said, turned incredibly sharp, and it was fun through the wakes. Like, this is it. This is the ski. And we came out with what we developed, what Bob came up with by hand, out of our heads that first time. And
maybe that's where I'm going wrong. I'm trying to run passes at like 24, 26 miles an hour. I should drop it down about 10 miles an hour.
No. That's way too fast. Yeah, drop it down to 16, 18 miles an hour, dude. Yeah, it's not built for that speed. It's built for slow speeds. It's built for fun in the sun. It's not built for freaking competition. not trying to walk away with medals and chicks. You're trying to freaking go out and have fun, dude. Come on.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll take it down to trick speed and see what I can do this afternoon of it on it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Report back, please.
I shall report back, most definitely. I've got your email now, so that's going to be a little bit easier. And I've also got you on Facebook, and you're on there as well. And so is Flowpoint TV, and so is the Flowpoint Method. A big shout out to those entities. But now you've taken on more of a role at HO Sports. I would imagine that Jenny is probably going to take more of a role in the Flowpoint Method, as you kind of move priorities from one to the other.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously I should have said this early on, but Jenny's a huge reason why Flowpoint Method's even a thing. She's the driving force behind it. She's obviously got decades of experience in the fitness space, being a health and wellness coach, being a personal trainer, being a CrossFit Games athlete multiple times. She's just a powerhouse in multiple ways. And anybody in my position who people kind of see, who have some sort of visibility, we wouldn't be anything without the people behind us. And Jenny's kind of my biggest supporter. And she literally said that, like, hey, if you want to give this HO position a go, like I'll step up with FPM and keep this thing going any way I need to. So you're exactly right. She's gonna step up in the ways that she needs to if and when I can't, because of this new role. But we're hoping that our membership isn't going to see any blip in the radar, and they're going to hopefully see us continue to grow FPM into the future. And she's going to be a big part of that for sure.
All right, then we're going to wrap up the podcast right now. Thank you very much indeed for availing yourself of the opportunity for me to interview you for this podcast. But what I normally ask of my interviewees at the end of the podcast is
Tony, before you ask me, can I ask you a question so that you can finish off? But I want to ask you a question.
Oh, man alive. I think Kevin asked me a question and Aaron asked me a question. I'm fielding a lot of these lately. I don't know whether I should be nervous. I can handle it.
You can handle it. It's simple. I've already alluded to it, but you're a very energetic, there's nobody who can do what you do on the microphone, weekend after weekend. In my opinion, nobody has the perspective, the historical knowledge of the sport. You're in some ways single-handedly carrying the history of the sport forward with all these facts and figures, every weekend that you fit in there in between all the other stuff you got to talk about from skier to skier. But I just want to know, because you are your own man, and sometimes, I think it may get to be a little too much for some people, but I hope that I want you to not back off. I want you to ramp it up. I need you to be more Tony, because that's what the sport needs is the one and only Tony Lightfoot to continue doing what he's doing. So my question to you is, I hope that you're not going to back off moving forward. I hope you find ways to continue to elevate the passion and elevate the energy with TWBC in the coming years. Is that not what your goal is? Is that not what you're going to continue to do? What's in the future?
I knew that broadcast journalism degree would come in handy.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
you're the best.
I try. I mean, I really do. I mean, for some people, not exactly their cup of tea, but for hopefully for a lot of others, I keep them entertained, and try and push the sport forward to where it can and should be. I mean that's my ethos, and. I've got a
keep
good
the vibe alive.
Yeah, we've got a good team at TWBC, that understands that vision, going forwards. We're going to have a great summer. We'll be traveling a lot, But what does your summer look lined up for you right now?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some more travel and some more things that I'm going to have to do because of this role. But I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun to get to go to some of the events again and, show my face and get to talk to people and kind of, rub shoulders with the customer and kind of see what they have to say. But I did have one more question.
Go to all of those boat shows in the winter and all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be great. It's going to be fun. Who's your favorite person to sit next to in the booth during water ski broadcasting broadcast? Who's your favorite guest commentator?
No, you didn't ask me because
who's one of your favorite? Get just a quick snap answer. It doesn't have to be the only favorite. Who's one of your favorites to sit next to in the booth?
Rob Hazelwood.
All right, I love that answer. He's great, isn't he?
He is. He's just like on fire every single time. Sometimes I struggle to get a word in edgeways. Whenever he's on the mic. But I'm sure he has the same feelings towards me as well. But yeah, big shout out to Robert Hazelwood. But I've garnered a lot of support. Over the last few years. I've got. Glenn and Curtis Williams, from New Zealand, they've assisted me. They've got Kyle Eade. He's been a constant. Matt Reaney out there as well. Freddie Winter, where we did an entire podcast series last
and some of the girls.
Yeah.
Some of the girls, Allie and
oh
Regina
my word, Allie has
Elizabeth.
Really grown into her role. I tell you what.
Yep, great to see.
All right,
great to see. Well, what's the last question? You said I interrupted. You had a question for me.
Okay, last question. Thanks and acknowledgement. Who do you want to say thanks to? Who do you want to acknowledge? To round off the end of the podcast. Go.
Well, yeah, I guess just first and foremost, as you get older, you realize how important your parents have been, in your lives, and I think more now than ever with how I see parents being kind of helicopter parents and kind of maybe a little bit more pushy than I think is ideal. I don't know. I'm not a parent, so I can't really say, but my parents have been phenomenal throughout the years and decades. And I just, without them, I don't think I would have been able to do much of anything. Well, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So I just want to thank them. They've always been in my corner, and they've shown that in their own ways, and they've supported me every step of the way. So my parents, obviously, Jenny has allowed me to do the things that I've done that people see, and she's a lot of the reason that things get done behind the scenes. And then, the brands that have helped me along the way. Obviously, HO has been a huge part of my successes. I remember back in the day watching the Pro Tour, one of the Pro Tour trucks, big semi truck, had a Mastercraft, logo, a poster along the side with Wade Cox, and it was like, that's the guy. I want to be like Wade Cox. I didn't even know why, but now coming, full circle, I'm great friends with Wade. I get to work with him now at a deeper level than ever. And looking back, I've been able to piece together some brand recognition or some brand loyalty with HO, and of course, with Mastercraft through the years, but more HO now because of I had role models like Wade Cox, who stuck with a brand for forever. He's been with him since like '87, so it's just been, I've had so many mentors, Bob LaPointe, Dave Wingerter, my brother, and a lot of the team, Will Asher. I've developed a great friendship with Will Asher through the years because partly we're like fire and ice. We're like oil and water in some ways. I call him out on some stuff, and then looking back on, something I called him out on 10 years ago, I realized, holy shit, he was actually right on that. But he took it, and he was able to let us grow together as friends and as co-partners in this ski development project because, he's got wisdom, and hopefully I have some wisdom. So there's been a lot of people along the way. And of course, I want to say thanks to you and TWBC for providing a channel for people to scratch the itch of water sports, towed water sports, specifically pro water skiing, every weekend, being able to tune in and watch the replays and feel like a part of the community of these professional athletes who are the tip of the spear and who make the sport go round. I really believe that. And without pro skiing, what would we be aspiring to? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Without the pros showing us what's humanly possible, I don't think that 90% of the amateurs would really have a mark to aim at or would really have the inspiration to go out and push that extra set, that extra pass, you stretch for that extra buoy in the tournament when they otherwise would just be doing it for substandard reasons. I think these pros really bring reason and bring meaning to the sport. And so TWBC is a big part of making that machine go. So you guys are doing a great service.
Excellent stuff, and certainly appreciate you, Marcus Brown, on this episode 153. I did say 152 originally, but I counted back, and it is 153. This is the TWBC Podcast. I thank Marcus Brown for his participation in this podcast, and if you want to support the podcast, then shoot me an email, podcast@waterskibroadcasting.com, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about maybe supporting the podcast during the course of the summer. But for me, for now, it is ciao for now.
Thank you for listening to the TWBC Podcast. Be sure to check out our website at waterskibroadcasting.com. Links to our presence on major social media platforms can be found there, as well as updates to our webcast and this podcast. Duplication or rebroadcasting of this broadcast without written consent of TWBC is prohibited. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform and be sure to join us next time for the next edition of the TWBC Podcast.